New York City was once the greatest city in the world, but now I'm told it's being taken over by a radical communist, Marxist communist, Islamist communist, socialist terrorist. Zohran Mamdani is simultaneously an ultra-woke gay communist who wants to kill all police officers and make your kids trans, and is also an ultra-conservative Islamic fundamentalist who wants to suppress women and bring Sharia law to New York City. At least, that's what I've been told by Twitter. It's all over my feed. Probably because Elon is definitely boosting anti-Mamdani content in the algorithm right now. This guy is controversial, to say the least. After all, there's a reason why top Democrats are very hesitant to endorse him.
No, said Representative Mamdani. You gonna vote for him?
Look, the bottom line is very simple. I have a good relationship with him, and we're continuing to talk.
The vote is on Tuesday. What are you gonna do?
But is it all warranted? In this video, I'm going to find out. On today's episode of Progressive Primers, we're going to look at reasons to not vote for Zohran and see if they hold true.
Just look at the Democrat nominee for New York City Mayor, Zohran Mamdani. He's a Democrat socialist, really a communist, who proudly calls to defund the police.
We have a communist who's 33 years old, doesn't know a damn thing, practically he's never worked.
A 33-year-old communist.
Somebody who is a radical socialist slash Marxist slash communist.
Zohran isn't a communist, he's a socialist. There is a difference between the two terms, and I was going to explain that difference, but honestly, do you really care? Because it doesn't really matter what communism and socialism actually mean. Conservatives are going to make you think that the two things are one and the same, and that same are the authoritarian police states of the Soviet Union, Maoist China, and North Korea. So, let's assume for the sake of argument, Zohran is a Stalinist. Immediately after taking the oath of office on January 1st, 2026, he proclaims, "Hello, fellow comrades. We will be canceling all elections, seizing the means of production, rounding up all Wall Street financiers and putting them in work camps, abolishing all city newspapers, and dissolving the city council. All decisions will be made by the People's Islamic Politburo, which I shall fill with my lackeys." What happens then? In your wildest, worst-case scenario, biggest straw man, what happens? Do you think any of that will actually happen? He's running for mayor of a municipality. He can't repeal the Bill of Rights. He can't end capitalism unilaterally. He can't round up people without due process. That's ICE's job. Let's say he put all of this in a bill. Would the city council vote for it? Would the state of New York not override it? Would the Supreme Court uphold it? Don't be ridiculous. Zohran's not a Stalinist. He just wants you to have a free bus. Which, speaking of, free buses are a bold idea, but they're not impossible or pie in the sky. Plenty of towns in the US already have free buses. My university is in a town with free buses that anyone, including non-students, can ride for free, and they're very reliable. Free transportation is awesome, and in my opinion, it's one of the requirements for a utopian society. Being able to conveniently and comfortably transport yourself from point A to point B at no cost is the ultimate freedom. So free buses are definitely possible. Zohran just needs to be able to secure the funding for it. Estimates put the cost of the program at around $700 million a year. Zohran obviously wants to pay for it by taxing the rich, which we'll get into later. But we should also consider increasing parking meter fees or congestion pricing. Cars should just be banned from Lower Manhattan anyways. We should be prioritizing transit, so tax car use to fund bus use. But free buses are only one part of the promise. Zohran also wants to make them fast. NYC has among the slowest buses in the nation. Want to make them faster? Simple. Have more dedicated bus lanes so they're not stuck in traffic, which Zohran supports, among other things. The state of New York would have to approve of this policy, but free buses aren't a pie-in-the-sky idea, or crazy expensive. In fact, it could actually stimulate the economy, as people would now be able to spend more since they can get out of their apartments and travel to shops for free. Speaking of apartments,
But the financial literacy problem in America is affecting the politics in America, which is that if you don't understand that if you actually decide that you think rent stabilization is going to somehow increase the supply of apartments and homes in the country, you've got it completely backwards.
That is not the point of Zohran's rent freeze. For all the talk of Zohran's policies being infeasible, this is actually the most feasible. The city already has a board that freezes rent, and they've done it before. Of all of Zohran's policies, this is the one that's actually most likely to happen. It's also one of the worst. Rent control and rent stabilization, while certainly easing the pain for those already housed, actually disincentivizes the development of new houses. You can't freeze the rent to fix the housing crisis. And Zohran knows this. He proposes building 200,000 new affordable housing units by 2036. Still, rent control probably does more harm than good. Zohran probably supports it because it's just an extremely popular policy. But popular doesn't always mean good or effective. And I personally think Zohran should also advocate for deregulating zoning. We need to lower the cost of housing in New York so people can have more money for other things, like groceries. Which, speaking of...
Zoolander's ready to make communism great again. He's like Bernie on roids. His latest commie endeavor? City-run grocery stores. Not a good idea. It's been done before, and it's never worked.
He is promising the people the world.
Yeah.
And it's all a bunch of, how does Trump say it? A bunch of crap.
Okay.
So no one in New York City who is panicking about losing their government-funded SNAP benefits is going to vote for the communist mayor who's running on government-funded grocery stores, because now you see how easy it is to turn that off. And then your family starves, and your children starve, and you would never vote for that, right? Right?
So this is the Zohran policy that people fearmonger against the most. They see it as the epitome of communism. But Zohran's proposal is actually really small scale. He wants to start a pilot program to establish 5 city-owned grocery stores across New York City. They would not have to pay rent or property tax and would sell at wholesale prices. I'll be honest, I'm pretty skeptical of this proposal, because grocery stores already operate at extremely thin margins. Some rural towns in America have municipal-owned grocery stores. Some work, some fail, but overall, unless if the government's willing to take a loss, it doesn't seem like it'll work. Or, if it does, it wouldn't save people that much money. But Zohran's pretty open about this, and he said if it doesn't work, he'll shut down the program.
I think ultimately I'm guided by outcomes. If this pilot succeeds in guaranteeing cheaper groceries, as I think it will be, then yes, it should scale up. If it doesn't succeed, then no, it shouldn't, because what New Yorkers want are results.
And hey, he's not abolishing private grocery stores. This isn't going to be Soviet Union breadlines. No one is forcing you to shop at these stores. Also, this plan is actually one of his cheapest, so it's fine. And hey, if it's successful, maybe people will finally be able to afford to feed their kids. Which, speaking of... Universal childcare is a policy that an increasing number of Democrats say they support. Biden tried to do it when he was president, but blah blah blah, filibuster, Manchin and Sinema, Senate parliamentarian, it didn't happen. Zohran actually wants to do it. This policy would be a game changer. A majority of U.S. parents say they struggle to pay for childcare. A report from the New York City Economic Development Corporation found that parents leaving the city or cutting back their work hours because of caregiving responsibilities cost the city $23 billion in 2022. Plus, universal childcare could encourage more people to have children. Think about all the couples out there who want to have kids but can't afford childcare. The program would be expensive, costing $6 billion a year. Zohran says he would pay for it by raising taxes. So I guess it's time we finally get to that. According to a PDF on his website, Zohran wants to raise $10 billion a year. First, he'll raise the corporate tax from 6.5% to 11%. That's the same as New Jersey's, as he never forgets to mention. He says this would raise $5 billion. He also wants to increase the income tax in the city by 2% on people who make at least $1 million a year. That would raise $4 billion. Both of these policies would need the approval of the New York State Legislature. The governor of New York has said that she doesn't want to raise taxes, but the Speaker of the State Assembly is all in. This is where Zohran's connections and relationship with the Albany government really matter. If he can get them to raise taxes to pay for his agenda, then he can deliver on some of his biggest promises. It's not totally out of the question. Again, the Speaker of the Assembly is up for it, and Democrats are generally in favor of universal childcare. Even the governor says she's for it. Zohran also wants to raise an additional $1 billion by ramping up tax and fee collection, which, luckily, Mamdani only needs the support of the city council to do. Of course, these are just estimates, and our libertarian friends at the Cato Institute call them wishful thinking. But it's not impossible. The town I live in is far poorer than America's biggest city, and it has free buses. Plenty of other developed nations have universal childcare. A better world is possible. People just don't think big enough. But if Zohran wins, people will leave. Ugh.
I think you would see businesses leave. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
And if you attack that 1%, those are the most mobile 1% of New Yorkers.
Last week, a poll from Victory Insights revealed that 26% of New Yorkers said that they would consider leaving the city if Zohran won. Which, hey, that's one way to solve the housing crisis. But in all seriousness, Zohran's detractors are saying that the new taxes will cause rich people to leave. This is a very common talking point every time progressives propose raising taxes on the rich. But it's not backed up by much evidence. A 2023 analysis from the Fiscal Policy Institute found no notable increase in outmigration among high earners following the state's 2021 increases to the top personal income tax rates. A separate analysis from Cornell professor Cristobal Young looked at 13 years worth of tax returns and found that actually the most mobile citizens are the poor. Only about 0.3% of millionaires would move to a low-tax state in a given year. This excerpt from an article from Patriotic Millionaires put it this way. As Young says, rich people tend to have both social and business connections where they live, which impacts their bottom lines. Meanwhile, it's a very different story for early career professionals and low-income earners struggling to make a decent living, who, unsurprisingly, tend to be more mobile. Most rich people probably won't move over a 2% tax increase. There's no precedence for this happening at a large scale. New York and California have the most millionaires and billionaires of any state, and they have high taxes. Billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman, a leader in the campaign against Zohran, said this when asked if he would move.
You've stayed here. You've been in New York this
Yes,
time.
I have.
Would this be the thing that pushed you out of the city?
Look, what I would say is, putting me aside, it's a marginal cost decision for everyone who's in New York City. And you weigh the benefits of living here for 183 days of the year versus the costs.
Okay, maybe, but I can't vote for Zohran because he's anti-Semitic. Really? Mamdani has long been an advocate for Palestinian emancipation, but in New York City, that's apparently a liability. During the Democratic primary debates, candidates were asked this question.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first?
And a significant portion of them answered,
I would visit the Holy Land.
Given the hostility and the anti-Semitism that has been shown in New York, I would go to Israel.
My goal would be to take my first trip to Israel.
Yeah, I'd make my fourth trip to Israel, followed by my fifth trip to Ukraine, two of our greatest allies fighting on the front lines of the global war on terror.
Global war on terror? What is this, 2005? But Mamdani said,
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
Oh, there it is. See, this question is a trap. They don't care about the other candidates' answers. They just want Mamdani to admit that he wouldn't visit Israel.
No,
As mayor?
I've said in a UJA questionnaire that I believe that you need not travel to Israel to stand up for Jewish New Yorkers. And that is what I will be doing as the mayor. I'll be standing up for Jewish New Yorkers, and I'll be meeting them wherever they are across the 5 boroughs, whether that's in their synagogues and temples or at their homes or at the subway platform, because ultimately we need to focus on delivering on their concerns.
And just yes or no, do you believe in a Jewish state of Israel?
Who cares? He's running for mayor of New York City. They don't even ask these types of questions to presidential candidates. And this confirms my suspicion. This is a trap. It's not a question. It's a loyalty test. But you know what? Mamdani answers this question perfectly.
I believe Israel has the right to exist.
Not as a Jewish state?
As a state with equal rights.
He won't say it has a right to exist as a Jewish state. Be very
And
clear
his answer was no, he won't visit Israel.
I said that very
That's what he was trying to say.
No. Unlike you, I answer questions very directly.
All right,
and I want to be very clear. I believe
answered.
every state should be a state of equal rights.
He elaborated on his answer in an interview.
Do you support Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state?
I support Israel's right to exist as a state with equal rights. I believe that every state...
Why not as a Jewish state?
Because I'm not comfortable supporting any state that has a hierarchy of citizenship on the basis of religion or anything else. I think that in the way that we have in this country, equality should be enshrined in every country in the world. That's my belief.
Perfect answer. Zionism is a weird, illiberal ideology. It needs to be called out as such. But Hadi, there are over 1 million Jewish people in New York City. He should support Israel. So? These people aren't just Jewish, they're Americans, and a lot of their families have lived in New York for longer than Israel has existed. Why are we singling out them? There are 800,000 Italian New Yorkers. How come candidates aren't expected to visit Italy? Not all Jewish people support the far-right Israeli government or its policies. Criticizing Israel isn't anti-Semitism, just like how criticizing Saudi Arabia isn't Islamophobia. Mamdani stands for all marginalized communities in New York, and that's part of the reason why 38% of Jewish New Yorkers plan on voting for him. Part of the reason why Mamdani won the primary is because his opponents thought the best way of attacking him was attacking his position on Israel, and Zohran did not take the bait. He instead responded by refocusing on affordability, and that's why Zohran won the primary so decisively. It became clear to many voters that Zohran was the only candidate in favor of lowering costs, and Cuomo was in favor of, well, Israel. Oh yeah, Andrew Cuomo, I haven't talked about him yet. Pretend Not Like Us is playing. Disgraced former New York governor and sex pest Andrew Cuomo is desperately trying and failing to revive his political career. I hate politicians like this. He's very obviously running to save his own career and ego, not to make any change or fix anything. He has no vision. He's only proposing policies as a reaction to what's popular and what people like, not what he really believes in. There's no ideology behind it. He ran on experience alone as a career move. Candidates who run on experience alone often do this and are quiet about policy. Looking at you, Roy Cooper. How come you haven't launched a policy page yet? You're running for Senate. Cuomo felt entitled to the position, and I was so convinced for so long that he would beat Zohran and the election would just be a coronation. How relieved I was to find out that I was dead wrong. And boy, oh boy, now we progressives, Democratic Socialists of America, get to have our guy as the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City. That's right, in a role reversal, the Democratic nominee is our guy, and Cuomo, the establishment pick, is running as the fringe independent.
Because in this topsy-turvy world, you have a socialist running as the Democrat on the Democratic line, and a Democrat running on the independent line, right? So it's
all mixed up.
So all of these centrist Democrats who are being wishy-washy about endorsing him are just hypocritical cowards. Whatever happened to vote blue no matter who? They can't stop the rising star. Meanwhile, the right is crashing out hard. Really hard, with some of the worst Islamophobia I've seen this decade. Like, the Islamophobia is so over the top to the point where I feel like it's just gonna backfire on them and turn off regular people to right-wing politics. Like, oh no, he eats rice with his hands? That's disgusting. In America, we don't eat anything with our hands. Yeah, bro, I'm sure saying stuff like never forget, Zohran is proof that we have forgotten, is definitely going to play well with the average voter. Definitely not extremely racist. This political cartoon actually had to write Mamdani on the turban because the depiction was so racist it was unrecognizable. The sad truth is, no matter how successful Zohran may be, the right, and many centrists, will never give him credit. They'll repeat the old Republican playbook. When the left is in power, focus on crime. Crime, 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 crime. Crime is everywhere. On the subway, on the streets, in the bodega. Despite decades of declining crime in New York City, they'll highlight every incident, reacting with exaggerated concern. Even if he does make the buses free, they'll just be like, oh no, now there's homeless people on the buses. We can't have homeless people on the buses where they can more easily get to shelters. That's disgusting. Zohran Mamdani wants homeless people on buses. He won't get a fair shake, which is unfortunate. Being New York's mayor is a thankless job, but if he wins, it could be a turning point. It would show that you can become the mayor of New York City and criticize Israel. It would show that anyone, including an immigrant from Uganda, could one day become the leader of the richest city of the richest country in the world. And lastly, it would show America that left-wing politicians are actually serious about enacting left-wing policies, not just rebranded Republican ideas. Progressive politics are the future of the Democratic Party. New York, you have an opportunity of a lifetime. This Tuesday could really be a turning point for the USA. Okay, that's probably too soon. Hi everyone, thanks for watching. If you're from New York City, please go vote for Zohran today. If you like this video and want to support my work, please consider donating monthly on my Patreon or Ko-Fi page. Ko-Fi also allows you to give a one-time tip. Link below. I'd like to give a special shout out to my Hamiltonian supporters, Tim Spot and the Engineering Potato. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and let's hope Zohran wins.
Democratic socialist. He's the
communist, not socialist, communist. He's far worse than a socialist.
Some people have compared him to a left-wing version of you, charismatic, breaking the old rules. What do you think about that?
Well, I think I'm a much better looking person than him, right?